Gonna chime in on this education debate that people have been having over the past week, pretty much ever since Thunderfoot made this video in response to this guy who made an initial video talking about how he dropped out of college because he felt college wasn't conducive on enough levels as far as his information acquisition goes, as far as his ability to glean information through the cheapest method or through the easiest method, and just his own subjective personal preference method. And that's all he did. He didn't talk about how everyone should follow suit. The guy just pretty much made a video saying that this is what I'm doing. So there's, every time somebody does this, there's this outrage sort of in a way, where the finger is wagged and the person who says that maybe the traditional way isn't the best way to do this gets described as, well, pretty much gets, yeah, a finger wagged at him and saying, well, you're not being a proper human being. It's not the institution that's at fault, it's the fact that you're not exactly sucking it up. Because let's look at the average undergraduate. Yeah, how many courses does it take to really earn a degree? You're not just going to get it based off graduating one course. There's always a bunch of crap that's accompanied with it. There is the, obviously a lot of people can't just, you know, a lot of them don't have mommy and daddy covering their tuition and stuff like that. They have to work at the same time, and we know that all the exams that happen, they're all crammed into a certain small period of time, so that you really have to pretty much spend night and day awake, either studying or working, so that you can actually pay off your tuitions. Obviously people go in debt and everything, but some of them, in an effort to avoid tremendous amount of debt, yeah, they end up working a lot while they're in school. And so all these things pile up, and yeah, pretty much the people who already graduated, they just say, well, you got to suck it up because I sucked it up. Well, some people simply don't want to suck it up. Some people think that maybe there's a different path to this, and we don't have to, you know, people who want to educate themselves to the fullest extent shouldn't throw away a few years of their lives in their 20s or in their late teens in an effort to get that accomplished officially. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about ways to do it officially. And currently, as it stands, there's only one way to do it officially, and that is to pay the institution year after year after year. And why are we paying the institution? Because the institution provides us teachers. And what do teachers do? Teachers do the teaching year after year in the exact same way, and have been doing this over the past 100 years, despite the fact that we could have recorded the best teachers giving out the best lessons to the best students. We could have videotaped a few of those lessons and do it maybe every year. Videotape, let's say, yeah, some of the most, you know, where the right questions are asked, and where there's really a lot of great interaction going on with the students and the teachers. Videotape that, make it available everywhere, and see what happens if we, instead of asking all these people who really want to, you know, acquire information, it's not something that's bothering them, it's not something that they're uninterested in. No, they really want to acquire it, but they have all these other burdens, such as having to work in order to pay off the tuition, not wanting to end up 40,000 or 80,000 in debt by the time you graduate. Okay, so wanting to pay off your tuition as you go along. That requires you to do a lot of work not related to your specific studies, which means there's a lot of focus, there's a lot of time that you have to put in that you aren't necessarily going to be able to devote to your studies. Okay, so that's one of the major flaws of the institution, is that there's this assumption made that everybody needs the personal, hands-on touch provided by the teachers, and because of that, they're going to be required to pay the institution. But the simple fact is, not everybody needs that. If you need that, fine, no problem. More power to you. You should be allowed to take part in that. But there should be another way in order to, for any student, to build a bridge, sort of, in an effort to ultimately be allowed to take the test that's going to get them the master's degree or the, you know, just regular, whatever, undergraduate degree. Right now, there is no way to even qualify to take this ultimate test without going through it through the traditional method. And that's my major problem with the you know, the sort of traditionalist side when it comes to this, is that they're arguing that, well, you know, whenever we go to visionary insight for how to better society, we don't go to people who dropped out. No, we go to people who are the goddamn professionals. But the problem is that people who might have a capacity to become the professionals, but don't want to do it through the mundane traditional method, aren't even given an option to write these tests to prove themselves. No, the only way you're going to be given an option to prove yourself is by paying your way up there initially and attending the classes and doing the 1, 2, 3 step. So even if I were to dedicate all my time, starting today, if I were to dedicate all my time into pursuing all sorts of information when it comes to any given field, and there's an exception to the fields, obviously. If I want to become, a chemist or something, well then yeah, I can't do it acquiring information in my own apartment. I'm going to have to make use of the equipment and the labs and all that sort of stuff to run the experiments. So there are exceptions when it comes to certain courses. But the fact remains is that there's a lot of courses, I'd say over 80% of the courses that people attend in these institutions, they can glean this information from their own houses if the information was made available in an organized way and if they were allowed to take the test, but they're not. Okay, there's online courses, but online courses currently in their incarnation, it's a lot of Mickey Mouse stuff, okay? To get really high up there, to get the really prestigious careers, you aren't going to be able to get those by taking online courses. The only way you're going to be able to get those is by having to pay your way to them. Pay the institution, pay to have a teacher, some blowhard, go on and on in some cases. Okay, there's a lot of good teachers, but in some cases, yeah, these guys go on and on about stuff that isn't part of the curriculum, okay, and you're paying for it, and you're not being given an option not to pay for it because that's just the way the current system is. So obviously, there's dropouts, okay? There's dropouts, and the whole point of the, the bringing up stuff like Albert Einstein and such, Bill Gates, we don't bring it up because we think that that's the standard example. We bring it up because there's cheap tactics people employ, like in the Thunderfoot video, where they simply do a dropout while the dropout person is speaking. And the only reason we bring up these examples is because to illustrate that, well, no, you're going to have to do a little more than just put a dropout stamp and think that's going to do the argument any justice, because obviously you're going to have to do a little more than just put a stamping of dropout if we can prove that dropouts aren't necessarily in every single case completely useless. So that's all. We're not saying that the majority of dropouts go on to do great things for society. We're just talking about how, well, yeah, you're going to have to do a little more than just say dropout, disqualification of the argument on account of you being a dropout, because there are exceptions. So and that's another thing. I mean, Thunderfoot said that this kind of discourse, promoting this kind of discourse about the non-traditionalist method being possible, even feasible, in an effort to acquire a lot of information that's going to get you enough in order to acquire a career and be good at your career, he said promoting this kind of discourse is dangerous. And to me, suppressing this kind of discourse is dangerous because we see the current statistics. We see it even in high school. We know the dropout rates. We know that the current system isn't getting it done for the average human being. And we shouldn't assume that on the basis of this, that every single human being who doesn't get through it is a broken human being. Because these are children, first of all. And second of all, I mean, I've known some really intelligent, open-minded, gifted people who have dropped out because it just didn't suit their how can I even put it, subjective, I guess, standards of how to educate yourself. Because there's a lot of confinement, there's a lot of restriction goes. They tell you when to wake up, they tell you when you can go home, they tell you when your break is, they tell you when you're going to eat, and they cram all the exams, which really is the main part of the whole acquisition is when you take the exam. Yeah, they cram all the exams and they have them happen at the exact same time, like a week span. What's the point of that? That's almost a social Darwinism sort of thing where yeah, it's going to be fucking crunch time. If you aren't able to glean all the information and if you're not able to do it at the same time, regardless of how many subjects there are, yeah, we're gonna give you 10 exams on completely different subjects. And unless you can memorize enough from all 10 fields within a 2-week span, then you just aren't getting the job done. Why? Why not spread the exams out? Why not have one exam per month when it comes to every different sort of field? This doesn't mean that you don't glean the information just because you don't have all these other things accompanying you when you're studying for instance, yeah, you want to study for math. Well, let's just say, yeah, you're studying for math and you're taking it one subject at a time. You're not studying for, English and social studies and the rest of that stuff. There's no need for it. You can have these things spread out, but currently we don't do it because there's a lot of this, yeah, like I said, social Darwinistic incentives to say that, well, yeah, unless they can learn all the subjects at the same time and be tested on them at the same time, well, then yeah, they're not gonna cut it in the real world.